Senator LaMalfa, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, for allowing me to present Senate Bill 22 here today. This, of course, has to deal with California's high-speed rail and our efforts to seek to not only save money in this budget crisis that we're in, but also to have a better opportunity to plan and see what the true costs of a possible high-speed rail system would be for our state. As you know, in 2008, California's voters were told that constructing a high-speed rail system connecting Sacramento, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego would cost $33 billion to construct and would generate enough revenue to be self-sufficient. Voters then approved a $9.95 billion bond to fund the project. Now, barely 1 year later, the High-Speed Rail Authority raised their own estimate from $33 to $42 billion, a figure that is still likely tens of billions of dollars low, depending on further estimates. Independent estimates place actual costs at over $60 billion for the system that voters were convinced of on that 2008 ballot. In 2008, the authority claimed that a San Francisco to Los Angeles trip would cost $55 and take 2 hours. Today, the authority, by their own admission, claims the same trip will now cost at least $105 and take close to 2 hours and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours. Perhaps worst of all, that these figures apply only to a San Francisco to Anaheim route. The authority has given little indication that connections to other cities, as implied, will be built. Just last week, the members of this committee heard testimony that the High-Speed Rail Authority lacks sufficient planning and capable management and faces problems ranging from financial mismanagement to poorly produced ridership studies, and was incapable of managing one of the largest and most costly projects in California and perhaps the nation's history. Those comments came from the Planning and Conservation League, which has been an outspoken supporter of high-speed rail in California. As members of the committee are very aware, the authority's leadership has faced ongoing conflict of interest problems ranging from incompatible office holders being on the authority, as well as ethical questions about the awarding of public relations contracts. So far, of the almost $10 billion in bonds, the state has issued about $410 million. The vast majority has been used for planning and environmental studies. Governor Brown's budget delays bond sales scheduled for spring until fall of 2011, which would grant taxpayers a temporary reprieve and allow, again, for more time to see what the true costs, ridership, etc. of high-speed rail would be. While California has secured about $3.6 billion in federal funds, is competing for more of those funds that Florida rejected, previously Ohio, Wisconsin also. The recently passed federal budget eliminated all funding for high-speed rail projects. So the federal spigot is drying up. It's extremely unlikely that the current Congress will continue to fund California's high-speed rail plans. State Treasurer Bill Lockyer believes that the existing plan is so unworkable that no one, his quote, will buy this bond, certainly not at any reasonable price, which means private investment will produce nil in regards to investing in high-speed rail. Furthermore, while the authority has touted the many businesses that wish to participate in the project, these are businesses that are wishing to actually profit by contracting with the authority. No private sector entity has stepped forward to offer financing of this supposedly profitable enterprise. As the LAO and others have noted, the current plan will undoubtedly require revenue guarantees by the state to attract private sector financing. Yet, this is expressly prohibited by the law. The funds simply won't be squandered by an incompetent organization if we do something about this today. The bill puts a hold on spending, which may be revisited if a skilled, competent board is available to provide a workable plan, which dovetails well with Senator Lowenthal's bill to have a better board in place. I believe this bill is very complementary in that effort to what I'm seeking, to freeze spending upon that until we have this better plan worked out. And the voters, I believe, were sold one thing, and back in 2008, we're seeing much higher costs, much lower projected ridership, and we don't even know what the ongoing costs will be. So I would like to introduce Mr. William Grindley here, who would like to speak to the issue as well.
Go ahead. You're good to go.
Oh, thank you. My name is William Grindley. I hold a master's degree in urban planning. I worked 35 years, partly in Stanford Research, as a business consultant. I'm the co-author, or one of the authors, of a 100-page report on the finances of the high-speed rail system proposed for California, and 6 subsequent briefing papers on that financial system. Today, I'd like to convey to you 5 facts that drive our conclusions that this project is financially infeasible and therefore a fiscal burden, not a benefit, to the state of California. Fact 1, all high-speed rail systems in the world require subsidies. The Congressional Research Service, the GAO, the DOT, and even the Director of High-Speed Rail for the International Union of Railways have all said so. The most damning evidence comes from a year-long study by the Inspector General of Amtrak, who said that the 6 systems of Europe together require a $42 billion a year subsidy. These subsidies, if you go forward and allow a now called revenue guarantee to happen for the proposed project, would violate Section 2704, subsection 08J of your own law passed in this legislature. Facts 2, mega projects always overrun their estimated cost. 2003 study of 200 projects, large-scale projects, showed that the average cost overrun was to be around 45%. I'll give you some examples. The Channel Tunnel overran 80%. Germany's Intercity Express in 2 segments ran 42 and 85% over. Closer to home, Boston's Big Dig is 2.3 times its estimates, and our own Bay Bridge is pushing 6 times its estimates. All right? By the authority's own analysis, the price crept from 33 to 42 billion. 2 separate independent, meaning not on the payroll of the authority, authors have come to the conclusion that simply Phase 1, Los Angeles to San Francisco, is in the order of $66 billion. Fact 3, ridership forecasts on mega projects are almost always overly optimistic, and this one is too. The authority's claims in 2008 for the voters was that this project would have over 100 million riders. Within a year, that was down to 39 million. If you make the analogy of the 10-year project of the Acela Express, Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Washington, the ridership should be something in the neighborhood of 5 to 10 million. If you say that this project is to take over the airline authorities, that is Virgin Air, Southwest, and United, who serve the 2 megapolises, you could only take away 8 million riders today, or perhaps 12 million by 2030. So if you could capture every one of those riders, you may have 12 million riders, about 1/3 of what the authority still claims. And believe me, when this system goes into place, if it goes into place, Southwest, United, and Virgin Air will be happy to cross-subsidize the California routes. They will drive you out of business. Fact 4, nearly 30 months into this project, the only jobs the High-Speed Rail Authority has produced is about 600 staff and consultant jobs, costing an average of $350,000 each. You are spending $1 million a day on studies throughout this state for which are either going to be stale or useless by the time you even start laying track. Fact 5, California's middle and working class cannot afford to ride this train. By the authority's own admission, it's $105 one way between San Francisco and Los Angeles. If I'm a working guy and I want to take my family to Disneyland, it's going to cost me $420 one day, $840 two ways, and I'm going to get to rent a car when I get to Walt Disney. It will also, because of its need for $38 to $54 billion of private capital under the new estimates, require raising taxes, and it will raise the middle and working class taxes between 8 and 11%. So you're facing a situation in which your constituents are not able to afford to ride the train, and they're going to get taxed for us wealthy guys and the businessmen on the expense account who can't afford to ride it. I conclude with 4 questions to you. Do you really believe spending $1 million a day of this state's very precious fiscal budget is worth continuing? Question 2, do you really believe that President Obama and this or another administration will give the project the necessary $16 billion more in grants when he threw high-speed rail under the bus in the first hours of the federal budget negotiations? Question 3, do you understand that the $66 billion needed to pay for Phase 1 will double the state's debt servicing requirements for one project? And finally, should the middle class of California and its working class, what will they do when they learn that they're going to get a project which they can't afford to ride but get to pay for? No amount of spin, no amount of obfuscation, no amount of money thrown at this project will change those facts. Please stop the bleeding now. Neither the state, its treasury, nor its people can afford this project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wolf.
Mr. Chairman, members, David Wolf here with the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We're in support of the bill. I'll just pick up where Mr. Grinley left off. Number 1, federal money is drying up, as he mentioned. And number 2, just in regards to Mr. Lockyer's comments with bond sales. We put out a $7 billion bond auction and earlier this year, and we're only able to sell about half of those bonds. And further, we usually do 2 bond sales a year as a state and had to cancel the second one. So this puts into grave question, number 1, not only can we sell these bonds, but whether or not we're even going to be able to put them up in the first place to be able to sell them. And also, of course, if these bonds are in fact sold, they will add to our debt service ratio of 10%. And of course, this bond debt interest must be paid off before any other general fund programs can be funded, including corrections and higher education. Next point, the High-Speed Rail Authority assumes that 600,000 jobs will be created in this process. Where will they come from? Members, we have absolutely no experience developing a high-speed rail system here in this country other than the Acela line, and it's debatable whether or not you can call that a high-speed rail system. Members, these jobs are not going to come from this state or the United States. They're going to come from European and Asian countries, and this project is going to do next to nothing to lower our 12.4% unemployment rate. Next point, the numbers just don't pencil out. AB 3034, the implementing language for high-speed rail, dictated that a trip from San Francisco to Los Angeles is supposed to take 2 hours and 40 minutes at a promised speed of 220 miles an hour. Members, there's many problems with this. Number 1, no train in the world goes 220 miles an hour. In fact, China, those masters of high-speed rail, just dropped the top speed on their trains down to 186 miles an hour, so they can't even hit 200. And also, of course, the United States is subject to federal safety requirements on their trains that China is not. This will add extra weight to those trains, further slowing down how fast they can go. Next point, the topography doesn't lend itself to fast speeds. We have elevations in the state between San Francisco and Los Angeles ranging between sea level to 4,000 feet. 4,000 feet, members, you're not going to have a train cruising down the peninsula at 220 miles an hour. And of course, even if we could go that fast, electricity use and greenhouse gas emissions, according to a study done by Wendell Cox, who is an expert of high-speed rail trains in this country, electricity and greenhouse gas emissions double for speeds of trains going 270 miles an hour as opposed to 125 miles an hour. Again, electricity use doubles when you have trains going that fast, even if they could. And of course, since we can't go 220 miles an hour, according to the implementing language of AB 3034, the Reason Foundation, according to a report that we co-authored in 2008, estimates that the trip will take 3 hours and 30 minutes. Members, at that point, I would ask the question, is it not faster to fly? 3 hours and 30 minutes. And my last point, members, let's just look at the proposed route of this high-speed rail train. Menlo Park to Atherton, going down the peninsula. The train goes through those cities. The proposed route of the train at this point, those cities are proposed to be bisected by the train. Menlo Park and Atherton bisected by the train. Further, there is no right-of-way yet from Union Pacific to use the lines to go through those areas. And you're going to need those lines unless you want to construct a whole bunch of new track in order to get through there. There's eminent domain issues, there's grade separation issues, there's an expensive condemnation process using eminent domain that's going to cost a lot of money. We would recommend, if you do end up building this train, the best route would be to use the Pacheco Pass route. And members, for that reason, for all those reasons, we'd ask that you suspend this project, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Clearly you enjoyed that. Next speaker.
Mr. Chair and members, Crystal Jack on behalf of Nisei Farmers League. For many of the reasons already stated, we also support this bill.
Thanks, Crystal. Anyone else in support of the bill? Okay, speakers in opposition. And again, if we could be mindful of the time and be succinct, there's no need to take as much pleasure out of your testimony as Mr. Wolf just took.
Mr. Chair and members, Mark Smith on behalf of the American Council of Engineering Companies of California. I'm just going to lead off with a comment in return to something that the Senator said earlier. You know, if I was a private investor looking at investing in this project, it certainly wouldn't give me a lot of confidence when every other bill in the legislature proposes to eliminate it. So I would think that the actions and the tone of the legislature certainly plays into the conversations that we're having.
With our
maybe
approval
not.
ratings,
Right.
maybe it would actually instill investment confidence.
You know, despite that fact, the reality is that firms and consortiums are lining up to support the high-speed rail project, to provide their expertise to the project that the voters of the state of California approved. We talk about the costs of high-speed rail in a vacuum. I have yet to hear at any of these legislative hearings someone bring up the alternative costs of transportation projects if high-speed rail is not to be adopted. The FHWA has put out an analysis on the cost of transportation improvements, and you know it might surprise you to know that it can cost up to $110 million per lane mile to build additional capacity in urban areas. Those are areas where 50% of the population of the state of California lives. It may not be that expensive to build a lane mile in the area where Senator LaMalfa lives, but it is still in the tens of millions of dollars per lane mile in those parts of the state. So very quickly we reach a point where high-speed rail starts to look affordable in comparison to all the necessary transportation improvements that would need to be done in the urban areas of this state. You know, some folks might argue that flying is going to be the better way to do that. Well, I think, you know, we have concerns about greenhouse gases, and where are we going to site additional airports in the state of California? Are we going to put one in the middle of downtown San Francisco? Or are we going to, you could talk to Sacramento County. They're struggling to expand the airport here that all of you fly in and out of every week when you commute to Sacramento. These are just not realistic options for commuters in California, which makes the high-speed rail that much more important of a project. Finally, let me add that I had the privilege of traveling to Europe recently. I really enjoyed my trip, but the one amazing fact was that I never once needed to rent a car, get in a car, or even missed a car. I landed at Frankfurt Airport. I got on a high-speed rail. I ended up in Paris 4 hours later. I was able to travel my way around the city using the metro. When I wanted to go back, I took a high-speed rail and used regional rail to travel around Germany. The reality is that high-speed rail is going to be the spine of an improved public transit system in California. Once that spine is underway, you will see a demand by the citizens in California to improve their regional transit options, which I think is something that all of us support. And again, for these reasons, we would oppose this bill. Thank you.
Afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Senators. Jeff Barker, Deputy Executive Director of the California High-Speed Rail Authority. I just want to say it would probably be fun sometime to go through each one of the points we've heard and discuss those and correct those, and I would relish the opportunity to do so. But in interest of time today, I'll just say that my board has taken a formal position opposed to this bill. Put simply, this would kill the high-speed rail project, and we believe that's in opposition to the will of the voters who asked for this project to be developed. The other point I'd like to make is that Proposition 1A includes some very wise language, a number of checks and balances, controls, reports that must be submitted, approvals from the legislature, the Department of Finance. Many of the questions that were brought up here today are good questions, and they were questions that will be asked and answered in that process. As you know, we've committed to a number of reporting elements to the legislature by October of this year. and those reports will answer many of the questions that were brought up today. There is a process in place through Prop 1A to deal with those questions.
Thank you. Next witness.
Mr. Chair and members, Jolinda Thompson. I'm the Executive Director of the Association for California High-Speed Trains. The people who are attempting to build this project, and if there were a cheap and easy way to do it, we would do it. But we have NEPA, we have CEQA, we have all kinds of hoops that we need to jump through, and it's expensive. But they're working on it every single day. We got an environmental deadline due within 10 months. We're going to do it. And we've got 17 months to shovel in the ground, and that's when the jobs are going to come. And we have been with this project for, I think, 12 years of environmental work. It's really within 10 months of reaching it right now. We just are so excited to do it. We want to deliver the project to you. We want to do it on budget and on time. I personally have ridden on trains that go 220 miles an hour. I think Assemblywoman Ma went 300 miles an hour in France. They do go that fast, and they're going to go that fast here if you'll help us out. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Chairman, members, Jose Mejia, California State Council of Laborers, respectfully opposing the bill. As an organization that has played a vital role in getting the bond on the getting the bond together for this, certainly take issue with this. And I know that the Senator has always been a partner with us in promoting job creation. There's no question about that. I'm very disappointed that we're doing this. I think everybody certainly understands it's times we have to invest to get a return. And this is an example that in a time when we most need jobs, it's the right thing to do. We have it done. We got to send the right positive message. There was earlier statements being made about the lack of investment. It's pretty tough to get people to really have any faith in our system in California if at the very end the voters make a move to approve, like the high-speed rail, and then we're off to remove it. So I really feel that we need to take into consideration that the legislature ought to be more concerned about job creation, and this is an investment at the end of the day, and I certainly hope that your committee does the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dia. Mr. Cummins?
Tim Crammons, operating engineers, and regretfully in opposition also. We think this bill is somewhat unique for high-speed rail bills. It kills high-speed rail. It's not just oversight, but I think it overturns the proposition. We find that unique, and I think you should let the checks and balances of the legislature play. We have oversight and aggressive oversight in some of our budget committees where the commission is being called to task where they need to, and I would hope rather than overturn, you let that process play out, and maybe we can perfect a product here that'll serve the will of the people.
Thank you, Mr. Crammons. Jeremy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. For many of the reasons already stated, I also oppose. I'll make 2 quick points, maybe 3. We've already gotten $5.5 billion from the feds. To insinuate that one hiccup in the recent budget negotiations where there was no money was cut from the high-speed rail programs, to insinuate that means we're not going to get any money in the future, I think is very short-sighted. Secondly, gas prices are going up, up, up. We're going to need to have something like this eventually. The project's already started. It's moving forward. And thirdly, the members that I represent are facing upwards of 35–40% unemployment. I challenge the proponents of this bill to show me another project that can employ 160,000 construction workers very soon and help put a very big dent in the unemployment rate in the state. So for those reasons, we oppose.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Yes, ma'am.
Jenna Price on behalf of the Planning and Conservation League. And currently, we must respectfully oppose this bill as well. We do actually agree with the Senator. The people of California, we feel, were sold something different in 2008 with the with the passage of Proposition 1A from what is presently being done. We do, however, feel at this time that we must exhaust all other options. Currently, we feel that Senator Lowenthal's 517 provides the transparency, oversight, and hopefully the good governance that's needed in order to get this project back on the right track. For those reasons, we oppose it today, and while there may be a need for this bill later on down the line, like I said, I feel we should exhaust our other options before we decide to fully kill the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Michael Endicott with Sierra Club, California. We're also opposed.
Thank you.
Mitch Seaman, California Labor Federation, also opposed.
All right. Any other witnesses in opposition? Questions or comments from the committee? Senator Lowenthal and then Senator Gaines.
Well, Senator LaMalfa, I will oppose the bill, but I do applaud you for a number of things. I think that you're right. It is appropriate that you stand up and fight for the voters of California who we have a fiscal responsibility to make sure that whatever is spent wisely. And I concur that there have been many problems up until now, and the jury is still out in terms of whether the High-Speed Rail Authority, as presently created, is able to really meet the needs of really what California wants. And I think that raising these issues is appropriate. I don't think at this point I'm really willing to go as far as you want to go at this point. I still want to see them, you know, the legislature still waits for a business plan. We still wait for financial planning. We still wait for accurate ridership numbers. We need more oversight. I think those need to be done before we move to something like what you're asking us to do. I appreciate your intention. I think it's laudatory that you're really trying to stand up and fight to make sure that, you know, we're not caught in a fiscal disaster. But I think it's premature at this moment, and I will not be able to support the bill today.
Senator Gaines.
Great, thank you. I was wondering, could we have Mr. Gindley come forward? I thought that you had some very compelling information, and I'd like to know where that data came from. You gave us numbers on ridership, estimated cost, things of that nature.
Ridership numbers for Acela. It's a model. If you take the ridership of Acela in 2009, it was roughly 3 million riders, and that was for a catchment area of approximately 29 million inhabitants along the route. If you take the population of California in 2030 at a roughly 47 million, you scale up that 3 million riders. Remember, Acela's been in business over a decade now. You scale that up to about 4.955 million. So even if the High-Speed Rail Authority were to do a superb job of marketing and selling its tickets, if it were to meet all the requirements, we could give them the benefit of the doubt of doubling, and let's say that would be 10 million riders. That's still 1/4 of 39 million riders.
Okay, and you had mentioned 100 million at one point.
That's the claim. That was a claim during the year of the vote, 2008. That was in the publicly available information for voters. The number was 117 million riders claimed.
Okay, and what was the estimated cost at the time of the election?
The Senate required the High-Speed Rail Authority to submit a plan by September 1st, 2008, approximately 2 months prior to the vote. That plan came in 2 weeks after the vote. That plan said that the cost would be $33 billion. That was for, suddenly, instead of the vote describing 6 cities, San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, San Jose, Oakland, and San Francisco, suddenly described something called Phase 1, which was Los Angeles, Anaheim, only to San Francisco. That the price tag for that was the $33 billion. Also in that plan, there was a discussion of the cost of what was called the entire system, that is the 6 cities I noted in a moment ago, as not to exceed $45 billion. Our estimates, based upon internal data to the High-Speed Rail Authority through their alternative analysis, says that the San Francisco to Los Angeles should cost $66 billion, and the entire system, representing the 6 cities of destination, should cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $116 billion, not $45 billion.
Okay, and I guess what I'm trying to get at is, when it appeared on the ballot, what was the estimated cost?
There was never an estimated cost stated in the ballot issue itself. There is material in ballot descriptions about the price tag of the entire system. Sorry.
Okay. The jobs. I've heard a couple of figures. I heard 160,000 by labor. What was it? I thought you used it for
originally the construction jobs forecast in 2008 in the authority's 2008 business plan was 160,000. By the crunch year, by the time this country had problem in employment in 2009, that figure had risen to 600,000 full-time jobs. Now, to be fair, if you divide that by 10 years of construction, that would bring it down to 60,000 a year. Other estimates done based on data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis as well as the statistical methods of the Bureau of Labor Statistics say that the project should generate between 15 and 20,000, not 60,000 construction jobs. In the nature of permanent jobs, the claim is now at 450,000 permanent jobs. That is the 2009 business plan statement. I want you to only compare that to the entire employment of the government of the state of California at 230,000. That's probably twice what the government of the state of California shall provide.
Okay, and then on the issue of subsidies, what is the average subsidy of some of the other competing high-speed rail projects around the
Well, the European system is best well known by a year-long study completed in August of 2009 by the Inspector General. And that said that there were 6 systems and they required $42 billion annual subsidy per year. Works out at $7 billion. That range was from $19 billion per year for the German system to $650 million, $618 million, somewhere in there for the Danish system. So the range is quite large. The German system eats up the most.
Okay. Do you know what the per rider cost is? I mean, if I'm paying a fare, how much of the fare I'm paying for is
well, as I said in an article in the Financial Times in December, and I have written all those systems, and I recommend it to Financial Times, the European financial publication. I said I recommend to all Europeans to ride their high-speed rail systems and accept the gift of the countrymen. They're all heavily subsidized.
Okay. I've always been a proponent of faster rail using existing technologies up to 125 miles an hour. I don't know if you've done research in that area. Is that
no, our concentration has been on the financing, or I might say the lack of financial planning for this system. It is appalling. The private sector has spoken. We are 30 months after high-speed rail, right, after Proposition 1A. The private sector told the authority in June 11th, 2008, that neither builders nor construction supervisors, nor equipment makers, nor financiers would participate in this program without a government revenue guarantee, strictly prohibited by Section 2704, subsection 08J of your AB 3034. All right.
Mr. Gaines, if I could just interrupt briefly on this point. And Senator Lowenthal, I think, will recall this. We had a Transportation and Housing Committee hearing in this very room probably 15 months ago, had this conversation about the revenue guarantee and how the revenue guarantee might be consistent with the clear prohibition in Proposition 1A. At that time, the authority indicated that they thought they could make that work in a lawful manner. Senator Lowenthal and the committee asked in an informational hearing if we could get some clarification on how that might be done. And now, 15 months later, to date, I don't believe we have that information. Let me just confirm that with the former chair of the committee. But
that is true. That is true. We did request that along with the financial.
That issue remains a significant and outstanding one in my judgment.
Do you know what the timeline is in terms of an answer?
I wouldn't want to speculate.
And to quote a prior, I was there also. I was there, and I will confirm what both senators said. And as yet, that's lacking. Okay. And also to note that this plan that is supposed to come in at the end of the year is now a draft plan, not a financial plan, not a business plan, a draft.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Other questions, comments? Yes. I'm sorry.
Senator LaMalfa, first I want to commend you for drafting one of the best bills I've ever read. It was only a page and a half. Perhaps that could set a precedent. You just want to end high-speed rail, essentially. I'm trying to
No,
understand the intent.
let me jump in right there.
Sure.
It's been asserted a couple times here. This is the first step of a process to truly establish costs, price, expected ridership, as these numbers have shifted dramatically from when the voters were offered Prop 1A back in the fall of 2008. By, again, the authority's own admission, the numbers have gone up. Just a moment ago, there was a discussion about where the voters were told that the government would not be underwriting the cost of this. There's folks actually exploring legal ways to now do that. And so that there is a very cornerstone of what people did not want to see happen with high-speed rail when those that supported it did. So I'm not seeking to kill it here today. I mean, I'll admit I'm not a fan of the whole enterprise, because every article you see, every report that comes out shows that the costs just are reaching into the stratosphere. We have at least 3 other states that have turned that money back in because they're not going to be able to afford their match and the ongoing costs going forward. So, I mean, it maybe make the case for ending it, but I will respect the voters and first present via this bill the opportunity to revamp the numbers, but in the meantime do a moratorium on significant amounts of spending. We're talking billions of dollars here that if they're spent right now or in the next 12, 18 months, that can't be recouped once we put hard brick and mortar, so to speak, on the ground, and not really studied out well what our whole route is going to be. So to say this is the kill bill here is not what my intention is here today. This is simply to pause the spending and allow everybody in the state to see what the true costs are going to be, the true ridership, which the numbers are not meeting. Mr. Grinley here has some very good statements about Europe, as well as Acela and other examples where the ridership nowhere comes close to the ballot numbers nor the adjusted numbers for the authority. So please.
I appreciate that, because I've heard you say that in several different settings. So I was curious, either A, would you consider working with me personally on a bill that tries to tackle the issues of costs, ridership, some of the issues that you've stated from a data perspective today. Second, the intent in which you'd like to accomplish in the effort to be transparent and forthwith with the voters and the taxpayers of California. How are we going to make this plan work? But in order to tackle that, in order to move down that road, we fundamentally have to make a decision whether or not we're going to support high-speed rail. And so from you today, I'd like to know, in a concept, do you support high-speed rail?
If the numbers were to add up, which I'm honest with you, I'm skeptical that they can.
Sure. With
the costs we're looking at here and with the goal of it here, I would support a transportation concept that at least could come close to breaking even. I would like to see it make money. Now, we have different options we're looking at. I know back in the Bay Area, there's options there for Caltrain that I think is probably a very important component for the South Bay Area, and even linking up to Sacramento. That may be a sensible route. Senator Gaines was talking about a mid-speed rail that may use existing track technology at much lower cost. I think, for Senator Simitian's district there, an article talking about instead of a 4-track system devoted to high-speed rail, a 2-track augmented with a 2-track for Caltrain. I think people in the Bay Area probably would like to continue to see Caltrain. It's got its own issues and problems, but I'm open for options. I am open-minded on this if you can show me the numbers. I'm very skeptical about the numbers. I would be happy to work with you on advancing this bill. The reason I would be more time-wise wanting to move the bill is that a lot of things are coming down in the next 6 months, 12 months, 18 months with regards to the kind of spending that we're looking at. And so if you would like to work with me on this bill, I invite you to do so, and would do whatever the committee needs to do in order to be productive that way today or in the next weeks.
In the most immediate near future, where is the bulk of the money going to be spent?
It appears to me it's going to be in the Central Valley because of the federal government's infusion of dollars that happened at the end of last year,
right,
via the various augmentations.
There are not many debates in terms of the alignment, though some within the ag industry have brought it up recently to date. But outside of that, if high-speed rail works in this country, but specifically in the state of California, it's going to be in the Central Valley. And so this is where I will not support your bill, because in the immediate near future, the money will be spent in the area of the state, in the region of the state, where it will work. Much to contradict the gentleman from the Taxpayers Association suggesting that you go from sea level to 4,000 feet, I would invite he and you to drive with me in the Central Valley from the Grapevine to Sacramento. I don't think we climbed 10 feet driving that entire path. I mean,
those weren't my facts and figures, but and I don't know the exact elevation going over the Grapevine, or whether they have
4,100.
It is 4,000. So I think he includes in that you would have to go over the Grapevine unless they're going to bore a tunnel through it, which I am scared of the cost of boring a tunnel through the Grapevine in order to keep it flat and 200.
That's not happening in the immediate near future.
No, the immediate future is that you know, the bad press it got from the 54 miles of
train to nowhere.
Train to nowhere, and then the augmentation of bringing it up to 120, linking Bakersfield and Fresno. So, indeed, though, we're talking approximately $5 to $6 billion in that, and in the worst case scenario, as spoken of by members of the authority, that if not, the rest of the rail would not be built, you would have that section of railway. Well, that would mean an Amtrak train could go a little faster on that than it would normally would, but the yield per $1 billion of being able to track the train to go a little bit faster, a conventional train on that newer piece of rail, the yield isn't there. I mean, so getting from Fresno to Bakersfield 30 minutes sooner, I won't make a bad Bakersfield joke, but do you really want? I'm kidding.
Well, I would only. I really
need to look at the costs on this. I think the state would. I think the voters would appreciate that. The taxpayers would, because we're in fiscal crisis like we haven't seen ever. Now, once this bond is fully implemented, it's 2/3 of $1 billion per year to service that bond debt, and we just don't pull 2/3 of $1 billion out of our back pocket around here. And so, I think the voters would appreciate that what they thought they were getting in Prop 1A in November 2008 is looking a whole lot different in cost. And I'll stop there so you can finish your thought, but I do have some other points on this as well.
Senator Simitian would like to make some comments too at the appropriate time.
Sure, and I'll just wrap my thoughts up right now, and that is we're in the worst economy right now that we've seen in decades because people are not working. And there's no question, though it's debatable, the number of people who will work because of this project. The fact is very clear. Thousands of people will be put to work, both on the upfront construction costs and particularly with the heavy maintenance facility, which will be located somewhere between Bakersfield and Merced, hopefully between Fresno and Bakersfield. But with that said, I think it is a wise investment in the immediate future, meaning 6 to 12 months, if we build the first leg from Bakersfield to Merced, because it establishes the backbone. And we're going to build a high-speed rail. Now, whether or not it is the most appropriate time to do so this year, I think, should be debated and should be discussed. The cost figures, the ridership, all of this should be discussed, and we have a bill with Senator Lowenthal to address the transparency and the governance of the issue. But I think, without a doubt, to stop the funding that the taxpayers voted on in the next 12 months and say we're going to cease and stop it, I think would not be good and advantageous for the overall project moving forward. And on this last point, there's going to be a subsidy. There already is.
You can't have one by law.
Well, what do you call the bond that was passed then?
That's it.
Okay, that's not appropriate to make comment. I'm sorry. We have a senator speaking.
Sorry, Senator.
That's all right. I just think
have to read the law.
There was a bond that was passed. Taxpayer money is going to be used. They decided. They voted on it. And so we need to put people to work. We need to build this project. And I appreciate your intent, and I really appreciate you going on the record in a quasi-fashion saying you support high-speed rail. if the numbers pencil out. But I look forward to working with you on this, Senator LaMalfa.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Rubio. And Senator Simitian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I first, Senator LaMalfa, want to say I thank you just for fostering this discussion in a broader arena. Kudos to Senator Lowenthal, who had to step away for a minute, who really did very good work early on with the Transportation and Housing Committee as a forum through informational hearings to make sure that many of these issues got raised early on. In the Budget Subcommittee, which I chair and Mr. Lowenthal sits on along with Senator Fuller, we have been raising a number of these issues as well. But it's an out-of-the-way forum, quite frankly. Not a lot of folks are glued to their seats when it's time for the Budget Subcommittee conversations about transportation expenditures. I do think, particularly because Senator Rubio and Senator Gaines, you're not part of that conversation in the Budget Subcommittee, important to note that both in the informational hearings of this policy committee and in the Budget Subcommittee, the concerns that are being raised are not being raised simply by members of the legislature or by concerned members of the public. They have been raised over the course of the last 2 years by the Legislative Analyst's Office, by the State Auditor, by the Inspector General, by the Institute of Transportation Studies at the University of California at Berkeley, and by the peer review group that is established by Prop 1A. Those are 5 sets of folks who I think undeniably bring some real expertise to the conversation, who for the most part do not have a political agenda and who have expressed concern about all the issues that Senator LaMalfa, you've raised today. So I think each of us is in our own place. I have consistently described myself as someone who supports high-speed rail done right. To me, that means a genuine statewide system, prudent use of taxpayer dollars, and a system that is responsive to the legitimate concerns of people up and down the state who are, I think, reasonably worried about what the impact will be on their cities, their towns, their businesses, their neighborhoods, or their homes. It's not unreasonable for them to express those concerns and to expect the authority to respond in a reasonable way. After 2 years of waiting, frankly, I have not seen a proposal in the region I represent from the High-Speed Rail Authority that fits that description. And so, as you referenced, Senator LaMalfa, a few weeks ago, Assemblymember Rich Gordon and I, along with our Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, stepped up and said, well, here's a little more definition about what we think high-speed rail done right looks like. And I'm hopeful that that will lead to conversations with the authority that can head us off in a better direction. But I think, you know, for every member of the legislature, the clock is ticking because people are saying, you know, at what point is this effort going to put itself on a sound path going forward? And some of us are willing to give a little more time than others. You've obviously reached the limit on your watch. I'm not going to be able to support the bill today. I do want to clarify through the chair that if the bill is unsuccessful, that the request for reconsideration is formally acknowledged before the committee, and that, as is always the courtesy and custom here in the Senate, that reconsideration will be granted, so that if at some point in the future you feel like it may be time to come back to the committee and raise these issues again, that is formally acknowledged in today's proceedings. And with that, I'll say thanks again for making sure that this conversation took place in a broader arena.
Great. Thank you, Senator Simitian. Would you like to make closing comments?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Senator Gaines. I appreciate your comments, Senator Simitian, on that. And I come into this, you know, not naive to the fact that this legislature supported this effort and placed it on the ballot just a few short years ago after a couple of misfires as far as which election it was going to be on the ballot. I believe 04, then 06, then finally 08 was moved, if my history is accurate at this moment. So the voters needed a lot of convincing in order to do that. And so we saw different election dates put forward to give them a better chance at that. So to some of the points that were made here, we don't know yet what the alignment is truly going to be for the rail all up and down the state. Now, let's talk about the South Bay, the peninsula there. Many people are up in arms just in that area you may expect that that would be an area of strong support of it, and it may show that on the ballot. But when it comes actually to putting it through their neighborhoods, people don't want this elevated track, perhaps graffiti covered after a few years, running through their neighborhood with the sound, the sight, and all that. So they're asking for a tunnel to go through some of these very nice cities and valuable properties, so they don't have to see it and hear it. I can't say blame them. So how many billions does that add to the project right there? Should that be part of a plan that's eventually part of a compromise put forward? Let's move to the Valley real quick. We have great concerns put up by many people in agriculture, although they're seeking to work with members of this legislature and others to shape that into something maybe they could live with. There's much consternation in the Valley amongst agriculture as to what is the alignment of the track going to mean? What's it mean for the dissecting of their properties into unusable small pieces, as well as homeowners, as well as at-grade crossings? Much of agriculture has to use the present crossings now. Are we going to have elevated crossings often enough there you're not having tractors and trucks and local people having to drive many miles around to find where there isn't indeed a crossing to get past this rail system? Do you want a 220 mile per hour rail line going through an at-grade crossing, if indeed it does reach 220? I wonder about that. So there's great concern up and down the Valley. Come back to costs. Many articles out there showing this is going through the stratosphere. I have to come back to the fiscal accountability. I was elected to do it, and I think this legislature is placed here to do. So we talk about jobs. For one-tenth of the cost of what I think the eventual price of high-speed rail will be once all these conditions are met, likely $100 billion, we could build 2 dams in California and turn the water on back to the Valley. Yeah, you're waiting for that one. We could build 2 dams, turn on more water back to the Valley, and get ag jobs going once again, and have long-term jobs that are sustainable. So, you know, as I close here, and I appreciate everybody's indulgence and patience, this is a big issue. It's a big step I'm trying to take here with you all. I ask for your aye vote so that we can pause, take time out, and truly assess what's this going to cost our state over the years. Who will the riders be? Will they be able to afford the ticket? Is it going to truly have the benefits that has been sold to them? I don't think it returns that. So I certainly look forward to anybody that want to have input and work with me on the bill. Senator Rubio expressed that. This doesn't have to end here today. Indeed, with the billions of dollars awaiting out there, federal billions, as well as state billions that the taxpayers will be online for, we need to get this right. We need to have this discussion and take it back to the people for their opinion. So I'll close there, ask you for aye vote. Thank you for your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Senator LaMalfa. Do we have a motion? Okay, I will move. And if we have a roll call vote, please.
The motion is due pass and re-refer to the Committee on Appropriations. Senators Desaulniers, Gaines.
Aye.
Gaines, aye. Harmon, Huff. Kehoe.
No.
Kehoe, no. Lowenthal.
No.
Lowenthal, no. Pavley. Rubio. Semidian.
No.
Semidian, no.
Okay, 1 to 3, it's on call. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, once again, just to formally put on record the request for reconsideration and the expectation that reconsideration will be granted, as is the custom and courtesy of the Senate, if the measure comes up with an insufficient number of votes today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.